Hey guys, welcome to the Lunge and Lift podcast. We have a great episode for you today, all about morning routines. I think it's something that people talk about a lot. A lot of successful people seem to do it. And between Rob and I, we have experimented with a lot of different protocols in the morning. So we thought we could save you the time and energy of it, so much experimentation yourself and give you our footnotes after many years of trial and error. But before we get into it, we have a very exciting announcement today. We are fast approaching our 100th episode. And to celebrate, we want to give you guys, our loyal listeners, something back. But we are going to have a selfish component to this as well.
Have
To say
to.
thank you, we're basically going to have a giveaway of a prize, which will be a muscle imbalance assessment. So you can have your mechanics checked out, 2 months of stronger group coaching, and also a consultation call, a chat with both of us about anything you want. It could be reviewing your training, your goals, your priorities, how to structure it all together, and get some personalized advice on how to get the most of whatever you're trying to do with your training at the moment. To enter, all you need to do is share an episode of Lunge and Lift on Instagram and tag us at lunge.lift. And you can do this as many times as you want in the next couple of weeks. As a loyal listener, you're getting early ears on this, so you'll have a greater chance. One a day is the maximum, but I
Yeah.
think that's plenty of chances to share any old episodes you might think that some of your followers might be interested in. There's a bonus option if you subscribe to our channel on YouTube, something which we're trying to grow. You'll get 2 entries into the draw, and obviously you can watch us doing this podcast right now, which hopefully gives you a little bit more than just listening to it. But there's also a big movement library on there and a few other short videos which might be of interest if you're a big YouTube user. If you're already following us on YouTube, thank you very much.
Let us know
And
your user handle and we'll count that as one of the subscriptions because we want to reward any loyalty that's already been given to us. So
exactly. So maybe comment on a video. I think that's the easiest way to get
yeah.
seen there. And 3 entries if you write us a lovely review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. I think when we're praying to the algorithm gods, that's probably one of the most fruitful ways to do so. So we really appreciate the extra time it takes you guys to do that for us. But yeah, hopefully that's worth your while. If it's not, no worries at all. Thank you for your time just listening to us. But for 2022, we do want to grow our audience and would really appreciate your help in doing so if you think that other people might benefit from hearing our message. But anyway, in other news, thank you very much, as always, to our show sponsors, Wit Fitness, wit-fitness.com. Use our discount code LL15 to get 15% off your order. And Hydro, our blood flow restriction partner, please use discount code LL20 to get 20% off the purchase from them. Whew.
Yeah, that's a lot, mate. That was a lot. And, we want to be completely transparent and we look to grow and we've grown so much in the past, coming up to 100 episodes, and we're so grateful for everything that's happened so far. But as Ash said, we've got to try and appease that algorithm and try and get ourselves out there. So thank you if you do enter, and thank you if you've done anything already. But let's get into today's episode where we dive into all about our morning routines. And Ash, I know you're a creature of habit, shall we say? So we've got to know what's your morning routine that makes you so successful with your days.
Thank you. I actually have had a bit of a clear out of my morning routine this year. I think I heard it on the Propane podcast, which is a lot of fun. If you guys haven't listened to that as your second favorite podcast. And one of the things they said in one of the episodes was that you really notice the value of something when you remove it. And over the years, I've tried loads of different things in my morning routine, usually adding more rather than removing things. And I think it got to a point where I was doing quite a few different little things in the morning, and it felt like a little bit of a burden, a little bit of a chore to be working my way through it before I got on with my day, no matter what time in the morning I woke up. So this month, I'm doing a bit of an experiment, doing very little and seeing what I miss, essentially. But up until this month, I would wake up, and have a pint of warm water with salt and lemon squeezed into it. I would do a little bit of movement mechanics. I like to just get the body moving a little bit in the morning, especially stuff to do with your feet. I always advise that for my clients when I have them working on their foot mechanics, that essentially if you get your feet working well first thing in the morning, then every step you do for the rest of the day is going to benefit. So it's a great time. It's also something we'll talk about a couple of times in this episode, a Zeitgeber, which is a German word meaning an input that helps your body clock calibrate. So it lets your body know that it's morning. And especially living in England in winter where it's very dark, it's important to let your body know that you're awake so that all your metabolic processes and hormones can regulate from that waking moment. After that, I would typically read and or journal. So just a little bit of self-development, read generally a non-fiction book to just be learning something, and journal, typical journal stuff like a bit of gratitude, prioritize your goals and things you want to work on for the day. And then what would be next? Get on the sad lamp. So in winter, another Zeitgeber is having a sad lamp to wake your body up with bright full spectrum light, which is I think the most important one. And meditate as well. I forgot to say that. Jeez, so you can see there's a little bit too much in there, and this is why I've stripped a lot of it out, because it was just a bit of a ball ache. But they've all been beneficial in various different ways. But I think now, having stripped them all out, the ones that I'm still currently doing are lemon salt water, just to hydrate first thing, and the movement mechanics and bright light as I start work, actually. So it's just taken a lot of pressure off, and I still do some of the other ones occasionally, but only as I want to, rather than having this long list of obligations before I get into my day. But you can see what the neurotic side to my personality coming out now.
Yeah, you can really see. But I think it's also quite interesting because you say about now you've reduced it down, but I guess that makes it a lot easier to have a win of the day, because if you already miss part of your morning routine, you're already failing something of your day. So you're already telling yourself like, hey, you're a bit shit because you didn't do your meditation today. But because you've given yourself, okay, cool, I've got, say, 3 fundamentals to hit, and then I can, if I choose to do something else at any point in the day, then you can. And that's, I think, this is something that I've had a massive realization, I guess, this year with similar things with myself, where I've kind of taken a lot of stuff out, but I've also put some stuff back in that I used to do, but in a lot more of a relaxed way, because it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's very easy to kind of get suckered into everything has to be perfect. And when it's not, for me, especially because I'm quite an all or nothing person, unfortunately, it's, if it doesn't go properly, then I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to go and do it. So using fasting as an example, if I say I'm going to not eat until, say, midday, and I have something at 10:30 because I'm hungry, I think, oh, fucked it, that's it, right, give me the chocolate, give me the cake. You know, it's not normally that bad, but that's just an example of like, I've then failed something. So the mindset behind that is powerful. And a lot of morning routine stuff is, it sounds a bit woo-woo and shit like that, but it's setting you up for the mindset for the day. That's the whole purpose of the routine. You're doing these things that you feel are benefiting you, and then going to make you into a better person for the rest of your day. Because I say this to nearly all my clients, is because I mainly train people in the morning, sometimes at lunch, and evenings I always found was terrible, because when it comes to training people in the evening, their life has got in the way of training. So they either come to training normally extremely depleted, or they come to training, or they don't come to training at all because they're busy at work. So the morning is your time, and you're under full, like, you have full control. And that might mean you have to wake up an hour earlier than normal. And like, using my, say, routine, and before going into too much, I have to wake up, say, I wake up at around 5 o'clock most days, purely because if I get up at, say, 6, I'm too close to, say, my first client, which is normally at 7 or 6, but normally at 7. So I don't really have any time to wake up. I'm like either wake up and in. So waking up at 5 means I have some time. I can get my day started in any way I see fit, and I have pure ownership of that. Whereas if I'm just waking up with Hannah and Chloe, say if it's on the weekend, I don't have any of that time to myself, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But if you are trying to do something, you're going to have to think, where else am I going to have to take it away from later on? And if Chloe's awake, I'm then taking it away from time with her dad. So I have to get up to start my day. But I know you didn't ask what my routine is, but I'm going to tell you.
I'm about to. What's your routine, Rob?
Oh, cheers, mate. Well, exactly the same with the lemon and salt water. Wake up. That's pretty much one of the first things. I don't actually do hot warm water. I just do it from the tap. I was Brita filtered, so because I'm about that life. So, but it's not in the fridge or anything like that. It's filtered water, lemon and salt water, and my salt water is actually an electrolyte mix. It's actually a lemon flavored electrolyte mix. So it's got the potassium, it's got the magnesium as well as the sodium. So yeah, have that, and makes me feel pretty good because I feel hydrated, and then I normally go out for my morning walk, and I've been a bit lax, but it's been a lot better this year. But getting out for my morning walks, and I make sure I don't have any caffeine prior to my walk because I want to go out to my walk quite clear-headed without any stimulants, and also get my body warm. And like you said, you do your movement mechanics. The walking for me is just setting me up for normally my first client of the day. So get my walk in. Recently, I've been not listening to any podcasts or anything like that. That's been a massive goal of mine this year is to not ingest as much information and actually start digesting some of it. And I would always, and we spoke about this the other week between ourselves, and it's just like I use any spare time to listen to stuff because I feel I'm wasting time. Otherwise, I'm like, I could be, if I'm say doing the washing up, I need to be listening to something. So I'm doing two things at once. But sometimes and I love it because I go for my morning walks, and it makes me sound really like old and shit. But I'm just listening to the birds, and like it's a nice way. But because when you said about your sad lamp, for me, that's one of the hardest things. Is I'm waking up and it's still dark. So by the time getting up at 5, it's still dark till about 7:30ish, 7:30. It's starting to get a bit lighter. So I'm not actually getting that morning light yet. However, I know obviously when something you mentioned about with the sad lamp, it kind of sets off all your hormones and stuff into the state, getting you ready for sleep essentially that night. But where I don't actually have an issue, my body is now, because of waking up at 5 o'clock every morning, my body starts to down-regulate around, say, 5:30, because I've normally finished dinner by then. And then I'm like, by the time it gets to, say, about 8 o'clock, I'm ready for bed. So, nice. So back to the morning routine. Lemon water, go for a walk, and then it's normally just sit and have my coffee, and then until my client, I might then either think about something for the session, or I might listen to a podcast or something like that, because I do like to then use that time when I come back over coffee, because it's normally about half an hour. So I normally sit there. That's when I've decided to start listening to podcasts on my own time with the coffee. So I'm associating coffee with education rather than a walk with education.
Nice.
So yeah, that's it so far.
Really good. So maybe it's a good idea to run through the various components that we do and have done, and a little bit of why and thoughts on them. So lemon and salt water to start with. In preparation for this episode, I actually did a bit of research into why lemon.
Why we do it.
Yeah, because you hear it from so many different sources, from Ayurveda to biohackers to everybody else, and there's various different justifications for why it is a good idea. And on examine.com, which is one of my favorite sources for literature review, they essentially look at all the science behind claims and supplements and various other things. There's actually only one proven benefit to lemon water, and that is it protects against kidney stones. Everything else is either limited anecdotal evidence or unsupported by science. And there's all sorts of claims on there. Like there's some websites that claim 21 different benefits from lemon water in the morning, but a lot of them essentially boil down to the fact, no pun intended, that the lemon makes you drink more water, and water's good for you. So
Fair
I
enough.
think it's an interesting one that it wasn't as concrete as I think it's
No.
purported to be in most places.
It's funny because it's probably the number one thing I recommend nearly to every client. And whenever I start with them, they're like, cool, what could I do outside of training? Like that would say benefit my life. And generally, most people they just don't drink enough water. They don't.
Yeah.
So every day, if you're saying, cool, you wake up and you do a thing. So it's not just drink a glass of water. You make it an experience. So having the lemon, having the salt, and again, most people probably could do with a few more electrolytes in their body.
Yeah.
Most people could do with extra vitamin C in their body, especially with all the shit that's going on at the moment. Like they're two things which, for me, I've always seen it as a vitamin C hit and some extra electrolytes because I sweat a lot. So I've seen it as not necessarily for the health benefits per se, but I know I do struggle to drink water throughout the day because I'm like coffee, and then I should probably have some water as well. So as soon as I have my first coffee, that's when I'm just all about coffee. But it's for me, it's just a nice daily habit that just means I get a solid bit of water and some extra nutrients as well. So it's funny that it's not actually as you said, it's protection against kidney stones, and generally I'm not really worried about getting kidney stones across the board anyway. But it just shows that thing of anecdotal evidence how like it feels good to do it. So sometimes that's all that matters. It doesn't need to have the science to back up why exactly you need to do it, because if you feel good doing it and you have a reason for doing it and it doesn't impact you in a negative way, then crack on.
Well, at the end of the day, if it's getting to drink a pint of water,
Yeah.
and most people don't drink enough water, that on its own is a huge benefit. Hydration is massive. If it doesn't cure cancer or whatever the like massive claims that some places do say that, if it doesn't do that, it's not the end of the world. It's still a positive, and it's something I'll still continue to do, having read that, because like you say, it's a nice ritual in the morning. If you feel good, and definitely combined with the salt, it feels far more hydrating than just plain water.
Yeah, and do you know what's funny? Because you say it like this, but I've heard so many people say you want to have cold water so it shocks the inside of the body because it's warm, and you don't put all this cold water down. And then you have other people saying you should have warm water because you don't want it to be a shock. And it's like, just do what tastes good to you. So like, if you see something online and you want to give the cold water version a try, I'd just literally room temperature. Like that is what my water is, and like I make it that because it's a nicer thing to drink first thing in the morning. Because drinking cold first thing, my teeth, I'm just like, it is brutal. So I think this leads quite nicely actually onto caffeine and daily and the delay of caffeine, because from hearing from other podcasts, if you want to really dive deep into some of the science, Andrew Huberman's podcast, if you don't already listen to it, he's actually recently done an episode about habits and stuff like that. It's really interesting, but he's dived into caffeine and the delay of caffeine as well, while you let your body essentially auto-regulate itself before you start adding stuff in. I struggle sometimes to delay it, and I think it was a podcast I was listening. Yeah, to delay the caffeine. I'm like, I want I want to delay the caffeine as much as possible, but sometimes I've just maybe my sleep hasn't felt as good. I'm going to gravitate towards it a lot quicker, and I know I then have more. Like I've already had 3 coffees today, and when we started, it's 11 o'clock now, but we started at 10. So before 10, I'd already had 3 coffees, and let's dive into maybe why you might want to delay taking caffeine in.
Sure. Yeah. So I won't do it full justice. Dr. Andrew Huberman is the boss of this sort of stuff. But in short, when you wake up in the morning, your body is already high in the hormone cortisol, which is a stress hormone, which basically mobilizes energy stores. So you will naturally be quite alert and ready to go when you wake up, even if it doesn't feel like it. If you take caffeine straight away, you won't feel most of its benefit, for that reason, that you already have a natural inbuilt stimulant in cortisol high in your system already. And the downside of having the caffeine at the same time is that caffeine has a half-life, so it'll only exist in your system for a certain amount of time before its concentration starts diminishing. So what happens as the caffeine levels drop is that you'll perceive your fatigue more acutely. So you'll feel that tiredness come on quite suddenly. And if you have it first thing in the morning, that will tend to correlate with your afternoon slump. So as you're naturally having your afternoon slump, you also experience a drop in your caffeine levels, which increases your perception of fatigue. So you'll have this big mid-afternoon crash, which might lead to you having another coffee, which then starts affecting your sleep because now you don't perceive your fatigue and tiredness when you want to in the evening. So Dr. Huberman advises having your caffeine 90 to 120 minutes after you wake up, which is actually quite a long wait if you're used to having it first thing in the morning. But it means that you feel the alertness that coffee gives you in the afternoon. It extends into the afternoon, and as the caffeine is metabolized and you start to perceive that fatigue better, it correlates with your body's natural arc of energy in that you're energetic in the morning and into the afternoon. And then as the evening comes, you naturally start to feel tired and sleepy, and then you can have a good night's sleep. So it's more about working with your body's natural rhythms rather than trying to change your body clock essentially by having a big hit of stimulant first thing in the morning when you don't really need it.
No, and I think it's the goes in along the lines of habits. And it's like the morning routines is like a routine. It's just a bunch of habits put together, right? And it's like something that you do every day and you crack on with. And for me, whenever I delay caffeine, I do feel so much better for it. And it's then I also don't need as many coffees or anything. Like for instance, today, because so my daughter's unwell, so she went to sleep really early yesterday, which then meant I worked. So then my brain was stimulated at a time it's not normally stimulated. So I was doing some programming and stuff right until I think it was about 9:10. Normally I'm in bed by this point and probably asleep. But so I then got into bed, my brain's still ticking over. So it was about say 10 o'clock till I actually fell asleep. And that's if that was. So then I woke up today feeling a little bit more groggy, didn't get for my morning walk, had a coffee, had another coffee straight after. And I was like, right, then had my client, then had another coffee when I come out from my client in between my next client. And then I was like, right, and then I had my flat white. So they were all Americanos, and then I had my flat white just now. So that's 4 coffees, sorry. So I had 4 coffees because not only did I not do my morning walk, so I didn't get energized from that morning walk and I didn't have my body's natural, essentially, use of cortisol, I've then just fallen apart and I'm then chasing my tail the whole day. And this is the thing, but this is kind of like, in a way, like the scary part of
How not to
habits.
Do morning routines.
No, and it's like, the main thing is because if you don't, because I didn't follow my normal morning routine, it's put me out of whack and I'm just like, whoa. So then I feel like I'm chasing my tail the whole time or I'm just freeballing. So the one main thing that I've said to kind of like steer me back in is right, you're still fasting, still stick with it. Right, that's now my morning routine today that I'm sticking with. And I know we're going to dive a little bit more into fasting in a minute. We might as well crack onto it now, like to discuss fasting because it's something I know you and me both like to perform. I mean, I'm a little bit more hit and miss sometimes, but I really enjoy fasting for how I feel during the day. Not necessarily for not eating because I really want to eat, but I feel really good. And one of the things I said about the start of this podcast where this year my goal is to be a little less strict but follow principles. Fasting is a really solid one because you might have just heard me mention that I've already had a flat white. Now that's milk and that's technically broken my fast. But the way I'm seeing is I'm not necessarily doing the fasting for these health longevity benefits and like that. I'm basically doing it so I don't eat like a fool all day. It keeps me and it just puts me into a better state of mind. I get to lunch, then I normally have a big protein shake type thing to kind of not, because I know that's still technically not fasting, but I don't have any real proper food till probably about say 1-2 o'clock. So I try to defer that a little bit more, but I'm not being so fixated on, did I eat before 11 o'clock? Oh, that's ruined my day. It's now just like, I'll have a coffee. That's just kind of like, yes, I'm out of fasting, but it's just ticking me over. So why do you utilize fasting?
For me, it's mainly the cognitive benefits, actually. I just feel way sharper and more focused when I'm fasted versus fed. And I do most of my work in the morning, especially my heavy thinking work. So it just gets me in the zone basically to be fasted. And it's also a huge time saver. Like there's another meal you don't have to prepare and eat. And the other benefit for me is that I like big meals. So I can have 2 massive meals every day, which I find way more satisfying than 6 small meals spread across the day. Like if you think about, there's like a task switching cost every time you go to eat. You've got to get your meal out, get your cutlery out, clear up, wash up, whatever is associated with that. And the less times per day you're doing that, the more time you have to enjoy your day or work or whatever you want to do with that extra time. So there's a few reasons for me that it's really beneficial, but obviously a huge one, if you're looking to lose weight or burn fat, then fasting is a great way to assist with a calorie deficit. It's a simple way to reduce the opportunity to overeat, and you're batching your hunger. I think we talked about it in one of our previous episodes. Rather than being in a deficit, but reminding yourself of food 6 times through the day, which is an opportunity to say, oh shit, yeah, I'm in a deficit, aren't I? I'm not ever eating till I'm full. Whereas if you're fasting, you could actually eat till you're very full twice a day and just stay hungry in the morning. So it's quite a nice system for that, if that's what your goal is with your nutrition.
Yeah, and for me, it's like, because I have I'd say not the greatest relationship with food in general. It's like I just love to eat, and I'm sure like many listeners, like, you know, once you start, that's all you think about. Not necessarily all you think about, but I have breakfast, I'm thinking about, what should I have as a snack? I'm like, no, there is no need for this snack.
Breakfast dessert.
Yeah, you know, normally it's like I have breakfast, it'll be like salmon, eggs and some shit, and then it'll be like, I might have some Greek yogurt with some stuff, and I'm just like, the calories, as you say, it's like just taking that away, it just simplifies shit. And that's the thing, because even if I still have my lunch followed by some yogurt followed by then dinner, I've still got rid of, say, potentially one of the meals of the day. Now, for me, I like the feeling of hunger, because especially if you're dieting of any way, hunger makes you feel, I'm burning fat. It's quite a positive feeling, because you're like, I'm doing something right. So it's an association to, even though you don't need to fast to lose fat, it's a feedback response. You don't eat, you burn fat, and it's like, oh, okay. Even if you're still eating it, you can still put on weight. Don't get me wrong. If you can eat, because I can eat a lot of food in a short window, even if it's only a couple of hours. But that's not the purpose of it. And for me, it's really interesting, because you put a note down for not great for training, but I actually find it's better for me for training, because I feel that, because I normally train in the morning, I'm a lot more cognitive, and I'm not more switched on there, and I don't feel like I'm digesting any food. I feel like I'm in the training.
Yeah.
But that does lend itself quite well to, say, my style of training being more strength training, where the intensity is not necessarily there. I have performed, say, CrossFit style training, fasted, and it wasn't the greatest thing. So it is it's very dependent thing to your goal, and your training style depends on whether, because I could imagine you could train quite easily fasted, because of the intensity of your training does vary. But I would imagine you wouldn't go and play football fasted, because of the type of energy system that you're using. You'd want a little bit of extra fuel to give you that oomph.
Yeah, I think like the way I see it is, you've got enough when you wake up fasted. You've got enough in the tank for one good session. That you can get by with one good session. But if it's a long session, or especially intense session, or you're training again soon, you would rather have fueled closer before the session.
Yeah.
And then you'll want to refuel soon after the session as well. So if you say you do a session first thing in the morning fasted, to then extend that fast to lunch, I think there are health benefits associated with that, but not performance benefits.
No.
Like from a performance point of view, you want to replenish your glycogen as soon as you can, so that you're ready for the next session. If you've got a tough training schedule, like if you train 3 times a week, then you can probably get away with it without too much negative impact.
That's definitely so. That's why my training generally, sometimes it is at, say, 6 a.m. because I've got to get it in, say, before my first client or something. Like sometimes it is really early. And in that case, I normally have breakfast. So then again, I then might have breakfast at say 9 a.m. after say my clients, because I'm in that momentum of my day. And then once I've got the first break, I'll then eat. So I'm not being so fixated on it has to be, I can't eat before 12. And I think that was a massive mind shift for me. And I know it's something that Liam from PH Nutrition has mentioned about, like he fasts. He said he fasts quite a bit, if he wants to eat, he wants to eat. And that's the thing, is having that relationship of just, you understand why you're doing it. You're not doing it for any special reason. You're doing it because you feel a benefit from it. And, and I think one thing I would be very cautious of, just the last thing on this topic, I think, is if you are, say, trying to build muscle, or you're just trying to get a solid amount of protein in your diet, sometimes that can be quite hard to get in 2 meals. And even for myself, like I generally have, say, 2 meals and then maybe 1 or 2 snacks. And those snacks will be, say, like Greek yogurt or like a protein shake or something like that. So I'm making a conscious effort to still hit my daily protein, but it can be a struggle, especially if, for instance, some reason Hannah wants, say, prawns for dinner. I'm just like, it's fuck all protein.
There's actually a surprising amount of protein in prawns. They're just a small portion.
It's more that I have to have so many prawns to kind of get the amount of protein that I'm, say, after. So like, it's just, so I generally try and have chicken and prawns, but it's just be conscious of that. If you do struggle to hit your daily protein intake, you maybe try what I'm doing at the moment, where I might have a protein shake to, say, break the fast, and then have your first proper meal a little bit later, if that's the way you do it. Because I still feel hungry after my, say, coffee. So I think we've done fasting.
All right, what's next?
Interesting one for me, no phone.
Yeah.
So, because I think this for me is a really fascinating one, because I feel the massive pull towards my phone. If I look at my phone first thing in the morning, say for instance, I get up, have a shower, and say just before my walk, if I start looking at my phone, I'll get suckered in, and it'll be just check, because I always check my WhatsApps, check off if I've had any client cancellations, so I need that kind of says, okay, this is how my day's going to go. So generally, but if I gravitate towards social media for any reason, I'm just like, and I can get trapped in. So a lot of the time, I'm very conscious of that. So my phone usage generally before my walk will always be no social media. And then after my walk, because also I don't want to pollute my mind with just shit when I'm going on a walk where it's supposed to be meditative in a way. Yeah. So, I'm very conscious of that. I don't want outside influences in my own time. So, so the no phone, I guess it starts from the night before. I generally keep my phone out of my room as well. It's something I've heard many people talk about, and it's just being charged in the room, and it's just, I just don't have any attachment to it. So it's there. So I have my shower, I don't look at it, and it's great. And then my phone generally, like, it depends on the mood, but sometimes I am on, then I look at, say, social media or something like that a little bit earlier than I should. And I spoke to you earlier about it. You get suckered in, and you're like, you look down and fuck, been 10, 15 minutes. Yeah. And then that's not your time, is it? You've just lost that 15 minutes. And what have I lost it to? Just looking at shit.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, they're precision engineered. Like the phone themselves and also all the apps are designed for that reason. So I think people beat themselves up for it, but you're fighting like millions or billions of dollars of R&D to try and get you to do that. So it's a tough fight, and I think that's why having a blanket policy just makes things easier. If you say at night I'm going to put my phone on charge in the living room and not look at it after this time, then that's just the rule. And you don't always stick to it, but there's a huge benefit from even just trying to stick to it.
I guess it's similar to essentially my thing of fasting, that if you do go to your phone, it's like, it is what it is. You're not like, oh, I've ruined my routine of not looking at my phone, but my sleep's going to be ruined. It's like, don't worry about it. You've looked at your phone. Yeah, you might have a bit more negative impact elsewhere, but it is what it is. But you want to be the consistency of everything else. I put my phone here to charge, and as you said, there's all those minds behind making you use it. And when you don't, you do get that feeling of FOMO, don't you? Like, oh, what is happening? And it's like, even if it's just checking your WhatsApps or checking your messages, just like, it's the routine. And we talk about like the habits of just like opening up the phone, you always find you scroll to the same kind of things. It's like, That's why changing your home screen is so important. It's like, I don't have Instagram there. I have to search it, but I can still search it really fast.
Yeah, exactly. It's like muscle memory. Wherever you
Yeah.
put it, your body just figures it out, and then it's like
Even if
3
you
swipes
delete
and
it.
open this folder and whatever you're in. So yeah, I think putting in some measures to control your usage is a good idea, and it just means that that first chunk of your day, you're setting the direction rather than inbound stuff setting the direction, whether it's something you see on Instagram or messages you get or emails you get. You're then reacting to that stuff rather than doing what you really want to do.
Yeah.
And I think especially if you get up early in the morning, it's completely reasonable to not be responding to messages until later in the day. A lot of people probably, if they sleep with their phone near them and on loud, then that's a big mistake in the first place. But then they probably don't want to be receiving messages first thing in the morning. So I think give yourself a little bit of a reprieve. You want to use your phone plenty later on in the day, and just keep that head clear so that you can plan your day, set out your intentions, and crack on a little bit before you start trying to drink from the fire hose that is
It's
social media and everything else.
It's amazing because it's like, even if it's just a quick glance or something like that, it's like that is all it needs for then a thought. And it's like, as I said, like if I've accidentally done it before a walk, because out of habit, I've just gone on to it. And so I normally be like, the first thing will pop up and I'll be like, oh, no, close it. Something like that. Or maybe a little scroll and then close. I'm like, no, I'm done. All right. But I'm on my walk then with it, and I'm just like, my brain wanders to those sort of things. And that is exactly what it's designed to do. It's designed to, which is why all advertising is so targeted, because it knows your habits and it knows what you want, because you know what you want and you do it subconsciously. And that's the scary part. And, have it, as you just said there, making sure you've got that time to yourself under your own direction. And whatever you choose to use it in, whatever morning routine you decide to put together for you, means it's the right thing to do, but don't be influenced by outsiders. And I think that kind of leads quite nicely into the next one about like meditation, because I know you said you've done it, and I like to use my walking as like active meditation, where now I'm not listening to anything and I let my brain just wander and think about whatever. It could think about really mundane things, or it might think about, oh, actually that's the thing, but I give it the opportunity to do that. And that's what I've been really, because I've tried meditation. I've followed like Sam Harris's Waking Up. I absolutely loved it. But it's like 10 minutes, they're really easy to do. But you're like, it then becomes really hard to do. Like, how is 10 minutes hard to find, to sit and just listen to something? And so that's why I found, again, trying to take a bit of stress away from it, using the walking as my meditation. But how have you found meditation? Because you said you're now taking it out, right?
Yeah, that's right. So I've probably been meditating on and off since about 2011. So probably about 10, 11 years now. And I'd say probably 70 to 80% of days I've done it, even if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And I do think it's a really beneficial practice. I think it got to a point for me though where it was just a bit of a chore, and I probably need to shake up the style of meditation I do or something like that so that I get back into the positive side of things. So I'm curious to see whether I really feel the removal of meditation from my mornings. So far, yeah, exactly. So far, there've been none. Like I think I actually stopped at Christmas when I went back to my parents. I wasn't doing it there. And I think what's more important is what you're doing, in that you're cultivating some empty headspace. By going for a walk and not having input, you let those thoughts organize, you let those thoughts process. So having some sort of routine or practice in place to let your head just process its own thoughts without new information being added in. I think that's, for me, the major benefit of meditation, is just sitting there and the space of, I'm just repeating myself now, but not having new information come in and allowing yourself to organize your own thoughts and notice what's going on in your own body. It's like a computer having a bit of time to process. And remember when you used to defrag computers? It just sort of refiled everything.
It even showed you all the files going across. It's funny because like it's people say, well, that's what sleep's for. And it's like, yeah, technically it is, but you're asleep, so you're not conscious of this organization. And since doing, and it's, so I've done it, it was just after, it was Boxing Day, I started doing my walks again, and I got into the habit of doing them again. And it was then, it was the New Year's, I think a couple of days into the New Year, when I then stopped listening to anything, because I was like, right, I got into my walks because I was enjoying listening to things, and then I was like, no, let me just stop. And the difference I felt in even just like noticing the world around you, and that's the thing. Sometimes it's just nice to see, like, as I said, the trees, the birds, and all that shit. Totally. Because it's like when you're constantly looking down at your phone or looking at a screen, and it's you don't use your eyes for the wide view, and that's the thing. It's been proven how bad that people's eyesight's again, because all they do is look down, and they do say, like, if you are looking at, say, a computer screen or something, look out to the distance in front to open up your views to everything, because you do get so tunnel vision, and it's been such a huge benefit I've felt to myself. I've really noticed how much better I feel now. We're kind of telling you to not listen to podcasts while you're going for a walk, and hopefully you listen to this podcast. So don't stop listening to us now. But it's essentially, that's when I would listen to podcasts. But I now, as I said, I use my coffee time for me when I listen to podcasts.
Yeah. Any time of day is good for lunge and lift.
Yeah.
So I think that leads quite nicely into breathwork, which is very related to meditation. And you've done a lot of breath work in the past. Do you want to talk to us about your experience there?
I enjoyed it. The only thing is, so I was following State app. So Brian McKenzie, massive guy on breath work and stuff like that. Really good. Signed up to it, and you do a tolerance test at the start, and then basically it customized to you, but you can choose if you want to feel awake, feel rested, or go to sleep essentially. Generally, I found I used it to go to sleep. So that was when I was using it, because I find it was sitting there doing breath work in the morning, it felt like a chore. And I didn't enjoy it then, even though like it was like they're like Wim Hof style breathing, like really like panting. And it does wake you up. It really does. But I didn't think I needed to be excited anymore. I was already quite awake. So it was more the thing of like the down regulation side. Problem is, it then gets to, you get so good at it that you're then doing it for about 8 to 9 minutes, and that's quite. I just don't. I'm like lying in bed and I don't have my phone with me. So then it's like I've now taken away that ease of just listening to the breath work thing of doing it. So then I try and do it on my own. Then I just don't. So I've lost that thing. And have I felt any like negative thing towards it? No, because I do go to sleep quite well. But I can say from Hannah's experience and my wife, she uses it. She has the phone next to her because she does work at night, because we have to balance work around Chloe. So she does some work at night. So she struggles to say switch off. So she uses the breath work to put her to sleep basically, and to calm her state down. And it works wonders for her. So, and she notices when she doesn't do it, she notices the impact, and she feels too switched on because she already struggles to sleep anyway, because she feels her mind is constantly got stuff going through it. But breathwork has massively impacted her and said how much it helps her. So I think, again, it's so individual to, yes, it probably did benefit me, but did I need that benefit? Like, what was I using it for? If it's to go to sleep, I don't struggle to go to sleep. So do I really need to do the breathwork and then keep my phone in the room with headphones? Like, that's then,
Nice. Yeah, I think that's probably one of the things that I've benefited from cutting meditation out for as well, is that I would use an app to meditate for guided meditation, and that's another reason I don't need to get on my phone first thing in the morning. So that's
I guess
benefit there.
You've put here down as reading, and that's something I try so hard. I've got so many books, and I love holding a book. I love reading a book, but I always yawn a couple of lines in. It just basically puts me to sleep. So I can't read it first thing in the morning, because I just associate with going to sleep, even though I don't read at night. So it just makes me tired. So I'm just like, I don't do it in the morning. And then at night, I'm either reading a kid's book. So technically I'm doing some reading every day, but I'm either reading a kid's book, or I'm just, once the light goes off for Chloe, I go to sleep. and I don't want to wake myself back up reading. So it's one. So I end up listening to books. I do a lot of listening. But how do you find reading? Do you feel that? Do you feel it's a nice way to like take in information? Because you read on a Kindle, don't you, or do you read?
No, I've used both. So I depends how I've got the book. So if I've got a physical book, if it's been given to me, or I just bought it from a shop because I saw it and liked it, then I'll have the physical. But if I buy it either spontaneously or say I'm on holiday or something, or somewhere where there's not a bookshop, then I'll get it on Kindle. So I mix and match. But in the morning, it would generally be something non-fiction. I find, say something that's educational in some way, shape, or form, then I don't want to read that before bed because it makes my mind really active. It starts giving me ideas. I start thinking about how I'm going to implement what I'm learning and making notes or anything like that. So those are the sorts of books I'll read in the morning. And I'll try to keep it quite short. It could just be a couple of pages, could be up to half an hour, depending on where I am in the book and how much it makes me want to continue reading, how much time I've got. But I think it's one of those things that sort of compounds over time. If you do a little bit of reading every day, then you'll get through a book way faster than if you read a lot once on the weekend, once a month. So it is nice. And it depends on exactly what book you're reading, obviously, as to how well it will go. But I have quite enjoyed that as a little practice, especially if the books are good.
Yeah, it's something that I would love to do. I would love to, but I do think it's still one of those things of I think, well, if I can't read for 10 minutes, then it's not worth it. So I think it's still for me trying to get into that thing of, okay, get a page, but only because I already struggle to digest information through reading anyway. So it's like I read a page and I probably have to reread it. So I just won't move off the first page for weeks. So I'm just
I think one of the principles of the morning routine is that not everything is for everyone, and everyone has their own ways of consuming information, of just doing everything. So I don't think you need to stress about the fact that there's one morning routine habit that doesn't agree with you. And I think that's important for the listeners to hear as well.
Yeah. And so kind of with the reading side of things, it's like the you mentioned about journaling, and like I've gone through stages of doing it and not doing it. And I think I've gravitated a lot more towards simplifying things and again doing it on the walk. So like, and it's then not writing or anything, it's then just thinking it. So I know there's a lot of science behind writing something down, writing your goals and aspirations, your hopes and dreams and all that stuff down. But even though I've had the book with the pen on the top on my desk, it's just in another step. And I then put it downstairs in the kitchen and I was like, I'll do it while I'm drinking my coffee. And it's something which I need to do this year. I need to put that downstairs where I have my coffee because it's an opportunity. It's instead of then listen to a podcast, I can then do that. So I switch between the two. And because I have personally felt, I've not necessarily felt better about my life or anything like that, but it has made me feel clearer on what to do that day. And that's the thing, because it's so easy to just chase putting out fires all the time, like whatever's the next thing to do, what's the next thing, and you then forget that your overall mission of whatever you're trying to achieve. And it's like I often get bogged down with I'm trying to do too much, and I've had to really try to just like all this morning routine stuff, really, isn't it? It's like simplify it down to what's just enough that's not taken away and that is actually given to you. And I feel journaling or writing down whatever it is you're trying to work on and setting your intentions for the day has a massive impact on what your day goes like.
Completely. I think that's a really important takeaway, that the main benefit is clarity and focus, that you think, right, there's so many things I could be doing today or focusing on. What are the top ones? Because if there's a good saying, which I'm going to butcher, something like, if you've got more than one top priority, then you've got no priorities. Like if you're spreading your attention very thin.
You can't have three main things to do. You can't have three priorities. No. You can only have one.
Exactly.
So don't lie to yourself and just have that one intent.
Exactly. So when you write it down on paper, it becomes very clear whether you're actually trying to do too many things in a day. And you also set yourself a nice, achievable task for the day. Like if you would journal morning and evening, when you do your evening entry, then you can see what you set in the morning. You can see whether you've done it or not. And you'll start to spot a pattern. If you're just regularly not doing what you intended to in the morning, then there's something you need to look at and address there. But yeah, like I say, I'm not doing that at the moment. Instead, I just plan my day from my to-do list and my calendar and do the same sort of thing. But instead of putting it in my journal, I'll actually just put it in my calendar. So whatever my tasks are, I'll allocate time to it rather than just have it on a to-do list. So I know that at that time of day, I should be working on this task. So if I'm not, then it's not going to get done, really, because you can't just magic some extra time out of thin air. So that for me is working a little bit better because it forces me to be realistic with what I can actually get done in a day because I'm looking at my available time slots.
So yeah, basically similar with me, but what I found is I'm having to do my not journaling but kind of plans the day before because my own, so anyone that say got a child will kind of understand that the day once they're up revolves around them. You can have the perfect plan, but you know, I'm grateful for everything that Hannah does, but like if she needs me, if she's got any meetings or anything like that, then I've got to be able to be ready on the fly. So that's why I always make the effort of getting up early, including Saturday and Sunday. I'm up at 5 because that's my time to either program and that's how I can spend time. But that's why the night before, if I know I've got some shit to do, I really make the effort to write down what I need to do the next morning because I don't want to have to spend the time in the morning thinking about what I need to do. So that's where I think you make sure these morning routines or say evening routines work for your lifestyle and work for you because as I said there with Chloe, it's like if she wants to then come and sit with me while I'm doing some work or something like that, I'm not really going to be properly working and I'm not going to tell her to go away because I don't want her to associate that work is more important than her. So I've like you've got to find a balance, which is why my morning is so important to me, but I have to then use that, say the to-do list the night before. So
good. I think last one on the list is the sad lamp.
Yes.
You got time?
Yeah, no, sad lamp.
Yeah.
Sad lamp is something I've just asked for it for my birthday. I was like, because so going on my morning walks, especially during the winter, and is you that actually, well, I've heard from like Andrew Huberman say about it, but then I know you said you had one, and because I don't get any natural light at the start of the day until say I've had my first client, it's like I wonder if any hormonal processes that I'm missing out on essentially for making me feel better because I don't have any issues falling asleep. So it's not that I need to then set any circadian rhythm to put me to sleep later on because I don't have the issue there. But I just wonder if adding that bright light in earlier in the day actually makes me feel better because I don't really feel that energized in the morning, even if I'm not having coffee. So I just wonder if there is a benefit. So how have you found it? Because I know you've been using it.
Yeah, so I've had one for years and years and years now, actually, and right here, actually. So this is what it looks like for everybody on YouTube. Extra benefit. It's just like a small iPad, which basically emits a very bright light, and I find it actually most beneficial for sleep. In that, I find that I get more polarity between daytime and nighttime because I'll get up and quite often just be working from home for the morning. And it basically means I don't get exposure to natural lights until maybe lunchtime. And for setting your body clock, I think it's underestimated how important it was. I actually went to a talk with Phil Lerney, and one of the things he was really stressing was the importance of setting your body clock and giving yourself these Zeitgebers. And light is the most important input for setting your body clock because obviously in the wild, the sun regulates so much, and being able to see is a hugely important part of an animal's existence. So I've been using one just for like a few minutes. I think I used to use it just while journaling, so maybe like 5 minutes, 10 minutes in the morning. And he had a lot more done a lot more digging into the research on it, and essentially the key things you need to know about the sad lamps is they need to be at least 10,000 lux. which is actually far brighter than any normal light bulb you'll get in your house. So even fluorescent bulbs in an office that seem really bright, they're not bright enough to affect your body clock. And it needs to be at least half an hour as well for your body to think of it as a significant stimulus for daytime. And since I upped the dose, the duration that I had it on, I now have it on next to me while I'm working on the laptop, and sometimes for hours. Sometimes I'll have it on all morning. And I have noticed that my wake sleep cycles feel a lot more consistent because I'm just getting that really calibrating stimulus first thing in the morning to say, right, daytime is now. And then as it comes to evening, my body knows it's had a full day of wakefulness. So it will start getting sleepy towards bedtime. Whereas previously, I'd say my body clock felt a lot flatter in that I was less alert during the day and more alert during the evening, which is obviously not what you want. Your body needs that daily rhythm for the various different processes that it undergoes throughout the day. And living in a country like England, in winter, we have such short daylight hours that actually it's a huge win to be able to calibrate to the actual day, like the social norm day, rather than just daylight hours.
Yeah, and I think it's what's really important is like you need to have a starting point. So you need to understand, like what we've both done, have we kind of taken stuff out and we actually putting stuff back in. Is like you need to understand that when you throw all these to-dos at you, you don't know what one's working. And I think something like the sad lamp is, for me, it's just something I've been intrigued about because, as I said, I don't necessarily have an issue going to sleep, but because I don't have that, and if I was to feel a benefit, it should be quite clear because I don't have that necessarily need. But what I would have to take into consideration is if you're looking at, if I need about half hour of sad lamp usage really to start getting the benefit of it, when do I do that? Do I do that before my walk? Because then if I go out to walk in a dark walk, then that's a bit weird. I've gone from bright light to dark. Like that could fuck up my circadian rhythm fully.
No,
like,
I don't think so.
Like I don't know. Like what? So again, it's about self-experimentation, and a lot of this stuff that we've suggested today are just that. They're suggestions that we've tried, we've heard that are apparently quite good for you to do in just general wellness and just feeling good. So if you have had any of these that you've thought, do you know what, I don't do that and I'd like to maybe give them a try, try that, adding in one, see how it feels, and then go from there. Because I think it's very easy to say, I'm going to try and beat, especially with the new year. I can do all these new things. Thankfully, we're now a couple of weeks in, so people's either habits are now they've already lost them or they're kind of sticking through them. So this might be an opportunity to maybe just add one thing and try and make it a really easy thing. Something like, say, no phone in your room. Just there's a charger plug in another room. Just do it. You're not got an alarm. I've got it on my Garmin watch, so it vibrates. It doesn't even make a noise. So that's what wakes me up. So it doesn't wake Hannah and Chloe up.
Plenty of workarounds for that.
There is.
People used to have alarms before phones existed. So
exactly.
That's not an excuse.
I think the takeaways of today is it's not bad if you don't have a morning routine. Your morning routine might be wake up, grab a coffee, go to work. Then that's cool. But you want to think, then if you evaluate your day and say, I don't have time to do anything, that's where you say, actually, I could get up a little earlier and create a little you time. And that might be just to sit there and do nothing or meditate. Yep. That might be what it is. But, you want to try and make these as easy as possible so they're automatic. Just like Ash and me both say, we wake up, we have our water, our lemon water, because it just feels nice to do. And then you feel like, cool, I started the day with a win. I've had my water, I've had my lemons, I've got a good hit of vitamin C during winter, pretty good. And I've also then got my some electrolytes. And, if you want to try some of these, maybe look at prioritizing which ones you want to introduce first. Saying like, maybe, as I said, maybe let's try the no phone. That's a really easy one to do. And maybe delay the caffeine. I wake up and have it straight away. Cool. Maybe just delay it half an hour. Have it on the way to work rather than when you wake up. So, anything else?
No, I think that's a great summary. I think the key message for me about morning routines is that you're looking for maximum impact for minimum effort. You don't want to overburden yourself like I did and try and do too many things and have this perfect routine because you want to tick all these various different boxes. Making it as easy as possible to do means you're going to be most consistent with it. So by all means, experiment and try things out. But like Rob said, try and be scientific about it so that you're only testing one thing at a time. Otherwise, you're not going to know which one is having the positive or negative impact. And if it's good, then keep it in. But if it's not, don't be shy to rip it out. And actually, I think that approach of periodically removing things to see if the absence is actually noticeable will help you whittle away stragglers that aren't really adding much, so that you can have a nice, simple but effective morning routine that gets you what you want and sets you up for the day in the way that you desire.
Because I guess that setting yourself up for the day is essentially what the whole thing is about. So that does mean you have to set yourself up from the day before as well. It's like just lastly, I went to the coffee shop at 2:00 and I got a decaf, and the barista goes, "What'd you get decaf for?" I said, "I'm too old to fuck up my sleep." Like if I have a coffee now, and I started going into it about some sleep literature stuff, and he's just like, "I didn't expect this," but I was like, "Look, I got my coffee. I got my coffee beans for tomorrow. That's why I was there, because I didn't have any coffee for the next day." So I was like, "I'm glad I did." But it's funny that it's then I was setting myself up yesterday for the next day. That was buying the coffee, but I was also having the decaf. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for today. We hope you've been able to extract some really cool information from today that you can implement into your daily routines, or you might even be able to start one. And if you don't want to start one, cool, do you? But thank you as always for giving us your ears and listening to us and spreading the message. As you did here at the start of the podcast, we've got our competition going. So if you do want to get that movement assessment, two months of stronger coaching, your stronger group coaching, and a consultation / call with Ash and myself, get sharing, get giving us the reviews. We really need it to help ourselves grow and appease the algorithm. So we're not ashamed to ask, but thank you. As always, though, if you do want to leave us a review, you will now get entered into a draw, but you can head over to Apple Podcasts, leave us a review there. Spotify now have ratings, so if you have been a Spotify listener, you can give us those 5 stars there, and head over to YouTube and subscribe. But as always, thank you very much, and we'll... Ash, what? Yep.
The review needs to be written on Spotify. And
I don't think
Apple
they do
Podcasts.
written on Spotify yet. No, so
Okay.
it's 5-star on Spotify, and it's written on Apple. So obviously,
Just so we can identify you.
Yeah. So Spotify. Just to be very clear, when you do it on Spotify, you're just doing us a favor, all right? But on Apple Podcasts, you have the ability to leave us a written review. So and you want to let us know. Maybe send us a screenshot into the lunge.lift on Instagram to say, "Look, I've left you the review. This is my name." So. Anyway, I think that's enough. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.